Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to find out exactly what's wrong with one of the cheapest S-Classes that I could find in Canada. I have already made another video on this S-Class on how much I bought it for, where did I buy it, and why I think these cars are very undervalued, and why they will increase in value moving forward. So if you guys haven't seen that video yet, please click down on the link in the description or click right here. And then feel free to come back to this video because we are going to identify exactly what's wrong with this S-Class, because I am going to take this car on a 1,000-kilometer journey all the way to Vancouver, BC from Calgary, Alberta. And I'm hoping to do that all in one tank of gas. Yes, this is going to be a very crazy challenge. It is about 970 something kilometers to Vancouver, BC. But if we can do this in one tank, this will be pretty incredible. Shit. But for that to occur, we need to make sure that this car is going to actually make it there without any problems. We are going to check all the fluids. We are going to do an oil change in this video as well for it, and make sure that all the suspension components are okay. If you guys do know anything about these cars do come equipped with the infamous air suspension system, and it does tend to leak a lot because there are many components to it. Each side of the car has an individual air strut with an air compressor, and all of that is connected by very brittle lines that can crack and leak a lot of air. You're going to begin by jacking up the car. This is why I love air suspension. I jacked up the front of the car and I heard the air compressor kick in, and it raised the rear to match the front, even though it literally has no jacks or anything like that currently, but it still made sure that it stays even. That's so cool. As we jacked up the car, it's time to check all the fluids and all the filters, and I usually start at the engine bay area before I check the suspension. So let me bring you guys with me and I'll show you my typical routine of what I check and how do I check things before actually going on a long trip. And this is something that you guys can do as well. It does not take a long time in any shape or form, so please do it. Doing my routine will save you a lot of time and money. It takes 15 minutes to check all the fluids, all the filters, and it prevents you guys from being stranded in the middle of the highway, especially in winter when it's super cold outside and you do have your whole entire family in the car. So please take 15 minutes to check your car before going on a trip. But let me bring you guys with me and I'll show you exactly what you guys need to do. The first thing I usually do is start with the serpentine belt. This is the serpentine belt which drives the alternator and a few other accessories, including the power steering pump as well, which is located right here. The best way to check the alternator is by simply giving it a twist and making sure that there's quite a bit of resistance. It's not supposed to be able to twist all the way around, so this is probably very good. I did change this pretty recently, so I'm hoping it's all good. It is also a good idea to check on all the pulleys and make sure there's no play in them in any shape or form. Just make sure that they're not damaged. You can simply just take a look at them as well if they're hard to reach. And these ones look awesome. They're not really making any vibrations or any noise, so I think these are going to be all good. The next thing I like to check are all the fluids in the car. To make it easier, I'm going to take a lot of these plasticky ducts off. These ducts are responsible for getting air into the engine and through the filters. They're super easy. You simply just pull on them and they come off like that. This, you gotta simply just pull up a little bit and it will simply just snap off, and just pull it towards you once it's out. This is going to be a little bit more finicky, but very simple. You simply just put your hand under the duct of the intake, simply just lift it a little bit. One side comes off, and so as the other. And once all the sides are off, you can simply just pull it off. And inside here are where the air filters are located, which we're going to check a little bit later, but they're super easy as well. Once you take all the panels off, it is a good idea to simply just make sure that there is no major leaks that are occurring at the top of the engine. I can see a few little leaks here and there, so let me show you them real quick. I'm not sure when the previous owner changed the valve cover gaskets, but it does look a little wet around this area right here and right here, as you can see. I believe it could be the valve cover gasket, but it also could be this oil cap. Every time you fill in oil, A little bit of oil does spill, and sometimes the person does not close the cap properly, or maybe spills a little bit, which is okay. So you simply just walk through the valve cover gasket right here, and it seems pretty dry here, so I'm not really concerned in the moment. There's nothing really leaking on the exhaust, which is very good. Let's check this side as well, and this side looks perfect. There's no leaks in any shape or form. So at the top of the engine, I'm gonna say it's okay. I'm gonna assume that the valve cover gasket was changed maybe in the last 10 years, so it's holding up just of yet, but if it does start to leak, it is very easy to do. Now that the whole entire engine is kind of looked over, it is time to finally check the fluids. I like to simply open up the cap as the first thing I do and check the inside of the cap and make sure there's no white residue. White residue means that there's coolant and oil mixing into your cap and it is evaporating on the cap. So it will have white spots. I'm going to post a picture right now for you guys to see. If it does look like that, that means you do probably have a head gasket issue, but this looks absolutely perfect. I also like to look inside of the engine, and the oil looks a little bit dirty, but overall it is okay. So once I do that, it is time to check the oil level. I am doing an oil change on this car, so it's not really important to actually check the oil. I'm just doing it for my own sake to see if the previous owner has looked after the car. Unfortunately, Mercedes and a lot of German cars do not come with dipsticks now. They're all electronic, and I did check it, and it says that the oil level is okay, but I'm not sure if it is. It doesn't actually say how many liters it actually has in the sump. So the best way to do it is buying a dipstick. I bought this dipstick on FCP Euro. I'm going to drop a link down in the description if you guys do need one as well. Once you do have a dipstick, you are going to get a manual and a sheet with it that says what the level of the engine is supposed to be. As this is an S430, which is a 4.3 liter V8, or it's actually 4.2 liter, I believe it is supposed to be at a mark of 80. I'm not really sure what the 80 means. I'm pretty sure it just means 8 liters of oil. So we just have to make sure that it's kind of close to that. You need to put the oil dipstick into this kind of tube that is sticking out on the side. You simply just pull on it, you put the dipstick in, make sure you have a rag on you on the side so you can wipe it off right after, and check your level. This is how the oil looks like. It doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look super new either, but it currently says that it is at 100. It's probably slightly overfilled. I'm not really that worried about it if it's overfilled by quart or whatever. But this simply means that the owner did look after the vehicle and made sure that there is oil in the car, which makes me very happy. The next thing I like to check is the coolant. The coolant tank is located right here. Make sure you do not open it if you did run the car for a long time before it. It has been sitting for about an hour now, so it is okay. But even then, make sure you open up the tank very, very slowly. Once you hear that pressure kind of released from the tank, that's when you know that it is safe to open because there's no more pressure in the tank. And the cap looks absolutely perfect, the level looks good, and the color of the coolant looks good as well. This car never really had overheating issues, at least for the previous owner. And I have been driving this car for a few weeks now, and it's been absolutely flawless when it comes to that. The next thing I like to check is the power steering pump fluid. Power steering pump is located right here, and there is a reservoir that is attached to it. It's very easy to check it as well. You simply just take the cap off. I like to wipe it off at the beginning. It does have notches on it that pretty much state the level. Pretty much the notch at the very end means that it is low. That is like the minimum requirement when the vehicle is cold. And moving down the notches is the increase of the temperature of the power steering fluid. If you have been driving the car for a long time, the power steering fluid is obviously going to be a little warm. So if it is at the maximum level when it is hot, that is perfect. This car has been sitting for about an hour, so I'm assuming it's going to be lukewarm. So it should be pretty much at a minimum level, which it is. Perfect. The next check I like to do is checking the brake fluid. The brake fluid reservoir is located right at the driver's seat, right pretty much in front of it. This is where the brake booster is. You gotta make sure that the fluid is at max. It does have notches on the actual reservoir right here where it says max and min. Currently it is on max. I just want to make sure that the color of it looks kind of okay. And it is definitely a little bit on the darker side, but it's okay for now. I am going to change the brake lines of the car, so it is going to get a new flush of the fluid, which I'm not worried about. So this will definitely be okay for the trip that we are kind of doing. The last thing I would like to check are the filters and make sure that they're not clogged in any shape or form. I did put K&N filters when I did buy the car. Taking the filters out is very easy. There are two filters located right here and right here. To take them off, there are 4 bolts on each side with a T20 connection. So make sure you have a T20 and you can easily just take this off. And once you unscrew the filter box, it's going to look something like this. This is the K&N that I have installed. I did put some oil on it as well, which is a specific K&N oil that you can put on before installation to make sure that all the dirt is going to be caught on easily. So once you take it off, you can take a look, and this filter looks pretty good. A little bit of dust, but that is no problem. Filters are supposed to catch dust, so this means that it's doing a job. But by taking a look through the filter, it does look very clean. So I'm just gonna put this back and I'm gonna call it good. If your filter does look very dirty, I'm gonna put a picture right now. If it looks anything like this, please change the filter. They're very cheap. It is very cheap maintenance. By having a very dirty filter, it does reduce your fuel efficiency by quite a bit because it's literally having a lot of resistance of actually taking a lot of air in. Vehicles breathe an insane amount of air when driving, especially on a highway when you're cruising at 3,000 RPM. It is very cheap maintenance to simply just buy a new filter. It costs like $20 for some cars. For some cars, it's even cheaper. So it is cheap maintenance. It does prevent a lot of dirt and debris getting into the oil and clogging a bunch of oil filters and oil pumps, and potentially could starve your engine, and you can actually seize an engine by having dirt getting into it. So make sure to change it. Now I'm gonna put everything back and I'm gonna show you how to check the suspension very, very easily. To check the suspension of the vehicle very, very easily, you simply just grab the wheel by 9 and 3 o'clock position and simply just move it to the right and left. And it will move a little bit just because the front wheels are designed to move left and right. That's how you turn the vehicle. But make sure that there's no major play. If there's no play when it comes to the 9 and the 3 o'clock motion, that means your tie rods are probably all good. The tie rods is what connects the steering rack to the steering wheel. This is how you're able to turn the vehicle left and right. So if you're not comfortable in going under the vehicle and actually checking with your eyes to make sure that all the bushings are okay, this is a very quick and easy check of how you can do it when you jack up the car. The next test that we're gonna do is simply just put our hands at the 12 and 6 o'clock position and simply just move it up and down. This checks actually for a few things, usually the upper control arm, the lower control arm bushing, and also the wheel bearing. If there is any play when it comes to this motion, usually that means your wheel bearing is bad or one of the joints is pretty bad. The best way to identify if it is the wheel bearing or the ball joint, the wheel bearing is gonna make a humming sound when you are increasing in speed, and the ball joint will simply just have movement when you are looking at it. This side is absolutely perfect. I'm going to do the same exact thing on every other wheel. When it comes to the rear of the car, obviously it does not turn left to right, but it's still good to make sure that there is no play in any direction of the wheel, as the control arms there are a little bit more sophisticated. They're not at the bottom at the top. They're usually at a 45-degree angle connecting it to the actual hub of the wheel. So sometimes when you are moving the wheel left and right, it might have a little bit of play here and there. So just make sure to check all sides. And once you check all the suspension out and make sure that there's no play, you are good to go. I've checked all of my suspension components and they look absolutely perfect. There is a little bit of play when it comes to the sway bar links that attach the sway bar to the actual lower control arms, but it's very, very small. I am going to change that probably when I come back after the trip, so I'm not really worried about them in any shape or form. Right now I'm going to do an oil change. If you guys don't know how to do an oil change, I'll give you a little bit of a quick rundown of how to do it. This is something that is good to do before a long trip and after a long trip, just because you are going to be driving pretty quickly and the engine is going to be working pretty hard. So it is a good thing to make sure that it's cycling clean and new oil to make sure that all the parts are lubricated, so you're going to have no engine failures. We're going to begin by taking all the panels off from the bottom because German cars love unlimited panels absolutely everywhere, which takes the longest time possible. But we're going to take all the panels down and I'm going to start draining. While the engine oil is draining, I usually like to open up the engine oil cap and the engine oil measuring tube to make sure that there's more flow going down to the bottom of the engine, so it actually drains a little bit quicker. And I usually like to simply just take care of the filter just because it's at the top here. The best way to take the filter off is by using an adapter. You can find this pretty much in any auto parts store. It's very cheap, it's like $20. It'll make your life much, much easier. Don't use some big pliers and you will scratch up the whole entire plastic here. It's much easier to just use one of these guys. You simply just put it on top of the oil filter, grab a ratchet with an extender. You can simply just put it in, and this is exactly how you take off the engine oil filter. You can put this on the engine oil filter cap, put it on, and simply just twist it off. It shouldn't be tight. It should be about 25 Newton meters of force acting upon it. Once you take it off and unscrew it, the filter itself is going to be located inside the housing. So you simply just take the filter housing off, and this is the filter connected to it with all the seals. Give you guys a little bit of a better view. This is the actual filter, and these are the seals that you'll have to change as well. It usually comes with the actual filter, filter kit. So just make sure to change all the seals and don't reuse them, because if you don't, it will cause leakage, which you don't really want. Awesome, so this is how I usually do my routine before we go. Now it's gonna be the fun part. Let's do a cold start on the car. I did check all the fluids, they seem to be all good. I just changed the oil level is perfect. So now let's do cold start with this cool exhaust. It seems like the car is ready to go on the 1,000-kilometer road trip. I've changed all the fluids, it's all happy. In the next video, you're gonna see this car going 1,000 kilometers, hopefully in one tank, and it's not gonna be stranded in the middle of the mountains going to Vancouver. So if you guys are excited for that video, please subscribe, please like and comment down below if you guys think I will make it to Vancouver under one tank. And if not, when do you guys think I will stop? I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it was helpful to a lot of people that didn't know that they had to do a little bit of a routine before going on a long trip. Thank you so much for watching. Please share with your family and friends, and have yourself a wonderful day. See you in the next one.